Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and I'm excited to be here with you on February 6th, which is a Friday. I have just been reflecting on the craziness of the time we're in. My last live stream was about this. It was about the times that we're in and how intense they can feel. And that continues. But I found that I knew that this time that we were in was going to be, that this week was going to be intense. I just had Steve Judd on the podcast that was released yesterday. He's a wonderful astrologer. He's been doing astrology for 45 years, more than 45 years. And he has talked about how, not particularly in that episode, we didn't talk about February, but he has done he does monthly reports, and he was talking about another report on his channel, talking about the intensities of February. And he's not the only one talking about this, but from an astrological perspective, it was already going to be a really crazy week. Of course, we're at the end of this week now, but it started on Sunday with a full moon. And also Sunday, we started getting a ton of solar flares, strong solar flares. I think we had 4 X-class solar flares from Sunday to Wednesday, and then and one that was only about point zero 0.02 under an X flare, I believe. So it just had point zero 0.02 more to kick into an X flare. And then there were a lot of, still moderately intense solar flares. And then there were all of the astrological pieces on top of that. I don't remember the ins and outs of that, but I knew it was going to be a really intense week just from the solar flares, if nothing else. So I made the choice that I was going to stay off of social media for as much as I could, because I didn't want the craziness. I wanted to try to control the craziness as much as I could in my own world. And I tend to take breaks where I'll go on to Instagram and I'll look at the memes and the reels and so forth. And I try to be immune to the chaos that is reflected back to me through social media as much as I can. But the reality is, I don't feel great after I've spent too much time on social media. And I also know that I get sucked in, just like we all do. So I consciously made the choice that I was not going to be on social media as much as possible this week. And I did post once or twice, but I just went on and came out and didn't let myself scroll. So I tried to be disciplined with that. And so what I thought was that all of this chaos that was coming through, that I could see happening, that the potential for the chaos from the solar flares, and then from just the intense astrology of February, that I might be able to get away from, or to prevent myself from experiencing chaos. And what I found personally is that the chaos found me anyway. And so I was reflecting on this with a friend today, and just realizing, it can be harder to outrun it than we might think, because in previous weeks in January, for example, a lot of the chaos that I was seeing was coming through the external. It was coming through the politics. It was coming through the kind of the outside world. And so I had the approach of, if I turn off the outside world as much as I can, then I'm really going to limit the amount that the chaos can find me. But what I found is that, like I said, it found me anyway. So for me personally, this showed up as outside news. There was like kind of a tragedy in a neighboring community, that of a young girl who went missing and showed up, or did, she was found, her body was found, and it was a teenager. And I have teenagers, And so it just, you know, that brought in some tense conversations just in the home of, um, just being more careful and having stronger parameters on the use of technology and things like that, that they weren't easy discussions. There was high emotion with it. And so in my own world, it was, there was a lot of like, anger, let's say, and just a feeling of some disruption. And then my in within my own neighborhood, a couple of nights ago, there had been a high-speed chase in my city, and I think there was, like, some sort of crash or something, and the people who were being chased fled on foot in the middle of the night. This was at, like, 3 in the morning, and came through my neighborhood. So my neighborhood had, like, all of these cop cars, and there were, people, or the perpetrators, so to speak, were on the street running through the neighborhood. And so I didn't actually see that drama, but there were then, like, cameras that had recorded things, and you're seeing it the next day, and it was really shocking. And so it's another way where it's like, okay, well, I've not sought out any chaos and drama, but it literally has just come into my neighborhood. And so there have been other things happening with people. I've seen this happening with others where, there are physical things happening, like pretty major physical things that are showing up for their loved ones, where, we're talking like disease diagnoses, and of course with children, which is very, so heartbreaking for parents, and you feel powerless, and you're trying to get a lot of information all at once and see what your options are. And then again, just other people, it's showing up as intense arguments or power struggles, or, lots of different ways. But again, like, came into this week. In fact, if you're on my newsletter list and you get emails from me, you will know that I sent out an email this week saying, "Hey, heads up, we've got some intense solar flares. This is probably gonna cause some chaos. We've got the full moon. We've got other astrological transits happening. Stay off social media. If you want my advice, stay off of social media. Things are gonna get noisy, and if you don't wanna get caught up in it, stay off social media," because I was seeing it as like, "Okay, this will show up in the external, and I've got some control here." And then the universe was like, "Oh, bless you. You don't have control. This is gonna show up. It's gonna show up. You don't get to skirt around this. It's for everybody." And so we do what we can, but for better or worse, we are in really intense times, and that can feel scary. It can feel, like we are, like, mm, it can just feel chaotic, and nobody really, well, I guess some people thrive on chaos. We're all made up of different things. But if you prefer, hey, sorry, my dog's wound up here. Um, but if you don't prefer chaos, then it can be a hard time. You have to stop that. And it can feel like something's wrong when there's a lot of chaos. And that's because there is disruption, there is disharmony. And like Steve Judd talked about in the last episode that I had on soul elevation, this year and next year is going to be a really intense ride. And so we may have a lot of disruption, and we may have a lot of discomfort and some chaos. And again, that doesn't feel great, but if we're going to have space for a new consciousness, a higher consciousness, new solutions to come in, new structures that are more aligned with divinity, with the true reality, then we do need the old systems to crumble. And we need people to be able to see that things are not working, because a lot of people don't realize that we are not even in a true reality. We're in an inverted reality. And in order for us to even be able to see that, we might need to see it broken. You know, if we think it's perfectly fine, but it's actually siphoning from us and it's holding us back and it's holding us captive, but it's so normal to us, and everything seems to flow with that without disturbance, then it can be, what's going to be the impetus for something truer and higher and actually in alignment with a divine reality? What's going to be the impetus for that to come in? How will we make space, or why would we make space for a an aligned system to come in if we think everything's working fine? So I like to have that zoomed out perspective of the benefit of the chaos and what we might gain from it, because it's hard to go through if all we're seeing is disorder, disruption, destruction, and we don't think that it's purposeful. So if you're, kind of earlier in your awakening process, it might be that there are a lot of holes in what I've just explained, because it can be hard for us to uncover some of this stuff. It does take time for some of this stuff to uncover and to be revealed. But I trust that that will all happen in due time. But really, I just want to leave you with hope and strength and a remembrance that it's really important for you to embody your soul, to embody the truth of who you really are, to connect with your higher self and with pure source consciousness, and to let that fill your being and let it radiate from you. Allow it in, invite it in, and intend that that divinity, that pure source light, radiate through you, and that it bless your entire creation. And just trust that every step of the way, you're going to continue to be supported, and keep coming back to that connection within you, to your own higher self, to your divine team, and allow that intention to carry you forth. Keep renewing it, and remember just how blessed you are and how important it is that you're here and that you're fully embodying who you really are. So, thank you so much for being here. If you have enjoyed this, please like it and subscribe and send it on so that we can keep spreading this high vibrational content. This is really what we need. We need high vibe content to proliferate and to be an antidote to the chaos. So thank you so much. Bless you. And I'll see you next time.